All right, Mike. So, what initially made you want to come to Bridgewater State University?
Um, when I was getting out of high school, I was trying to get a job in special education. My football coach was always a special education teacher, so I figured I'd have a good chance of getting a job coming out of college. Bridgewater State was a good school for a special education program. I didn't end up sticking it out in that profession. I found out it wouldn't have been for me. So I've switched my majors a couple times from criminal justice to now physical education, trying to find out what I want to do. But Bridgewater State was an awesome teaching school, so I've always heard real good things about it. It's affordable. It's even though I live all the way in Mashpee, it's still not too bad of a commute. You just jump on a highway and just come kind of straight here. I was playing for the football team freshman year here when I came here, so I was an undersized athlete in high school, but I was really motivated to try and play at the next level to kind of prove it to myself and not really to other people. I just wanted to try it. But I had talked to the football coach, Coach Janoon, a couple times during my senior year, and he had let me know, that they were going to have a spot for me in camp to come and try out for the team. I wasn't promised anything. There's no big time recruiting or scholarships for it, but I figured why not come try play football and get a career teaching.
Awesome. So, what major are you currently in right now?
Well, right now I'm in physical education, and I'm going for teacher licensure, grades 5 through 12. I was going to try and do the whole thing as far as going K through 12, but the problem is there's a couple extra classes that are added on to that, and it's not that I don't want the degree, but the dual degree. It's just I've been in school for so long now. I'm kind of anxious and eager to complete a degree and actually get a job somewhere in that the profession. I have a degree completed in criminal justice, but I just found out it wasn't for me, and it took me 4 years to get out of that. And I already told you that I started off as a special education major, so I've wasted a lot of time. I feel like I'm a motivated person, and it's kind of uncomfortable for me to be kind of behind the ball. So I think physical education is awesome for me because I'm in love with coaching, and it's what I want to do.
Awesome. So, you said you're looking to do coaching in your career future, but anything else that you might have had in mind with the profession that you're looking to pursuing?
Yeah, I've thought a lot into during the summer you have a lot of time off if you're a teacher. I mean, there's always workshops and things that you have to commit to in order to enhance yourself as a professional. But I think one thing that I'd be interested more in just coaching for the high school, it would be developing camps for football because that's the sport I'm really focused in on. Developing camps that help develop fundamental skills. I think that a lot of the time nowadays coaches try to load up with so much strategy and so much X's and O's in practice during the season that fundamentals in the whole sport have been down for a while now, and I think it leads to injuries because kids again are having to think a lot more about the motor skills they're performing. So when you think, it's kind of a paralysis by analysis. You're thinking and you're not just acting naturally. So I think I'd want to kind of develop maybe some camps and stuff. It would be cool to get players from all over the region to come and maybe work on stuff like tackling and work on stuff that is very important that I feel like some coaches don't really focus on.
So, with your playing experience in the past, do you think that you would have more of an experience for your coaching or for your future career than some other people might have?
I think the school I went to was a big football school, and when I went there, we were conference champions, and we were going to the Super Bowl all the time, and it was good to see like a real true football team's weightlifting program and an exercise program and just how a team practices like that. And I feel like I was in a great program, and that kind of set the foundation for how I think about football. And I just think it's such a diverse area that I grew up in. You have kids from all walks of life, all socioeconomic status, and it gave me an appreciation for diversity. And I think that I think I could go and coach and slash teach at Brockton High School. I think I could go coach in Plymouth and teach at Plymouth High School. I think I could it's given me the ability to relate to more people, and I wouldn't change where I grew up, and it's very special to me. And I think that's one of the reasons why I want to be a coach, is because I was one of those kids that kind of was on the fringe. I grew up in a real bad neighborhood with some kind of bad kids, and I saw a lot of those bad kids fall to the wayside, and I could have been one of them, but I had coaches that kind of, stood up for me and showed that they had interest in me, and that kind of, really pushed me to be where I am right now. So I hope I can do that for a couple kids along the way.
So you would say definitely that your background and like the sports that you used to play in high school is one of the primary things that shaped your influence on your job and wanting to come to Bridgewater and get the extra education.
Yeah. I had most of my coaches weren't physical education teachers. So that they were math teachers, English teachers, people who they knew how to coach football, but sometimes they didn't know why they were coaching things, or you could tell they didn't know why, and they didn't know the what's sometimes of how to coach. And I think, I have been coaching for going on 5 years now, and it's a big learning process, especially if you're not informed like a physical education teacher is. It was kind of a shock jumping in as an 18-year-old, being a head freshman coach, and you're coaching 14-year-olds, so kids 4 years younger than you, and they kind of treat you differently, the social aspect and stuff of it. So
right.
But I feel as though I'm pretty prepared at this point. I'm glad that I'm going back and going for physical education, because I'm learning about things that I've been doing, but I'm learning why we do that. You know what I mean? There's things I did when I was 18 that I was, I looked up online, or I read on blogs on how to coach and what to do for drills and how to format a practice. But now going back and learning about it just from someone who's going to be a physical educator, it's cool to understand why you do it that way and everything. And I have a big appreciation for that.
That's pretty cool. So is there anything that's really in particular, do you think, that gave you the little extra motivation to really get into the career? Or anything off the top of your head that you just say, like, man, that that really got to me, either if it was a sports experience or maybe experience when you were coaching at one point and you might have seen another coach do something that you say, like, man, I never want any kids to go through that again, or I want to be this certain type of coach, or...
Oh, yeah. I always have idolized coaches. I don't know what it is about them. It's the mystery, the mystique. We call coaches geniuses, like, in our culture, and they're coaching a game. But there is something to it about, all the little moving parts of being a coach, that when you put it all together and you have success, it's amazing. And, we look up to guys like Belichick, and we look up to these big-time coaches, and again, we're mystified by who they are and how they think, and they leave a lot of mystery to it, because, we don't know exactly what they think. And I don't know what it is. I've always looked at what these guys do, and I think some of them are the greatest leaders on the planet. And that some people might be like, that's a bold statement. Like,
right.
Hold up, but I think some of these coaches, in the NFL and stuff, if you put them in the military, some of these guys would become sergeants. They'd become captains, they'd become generals, and it's not just because it's not them being big time coaches just because they're knowledgeable about the game of football. It's something about their personalities. A lot of football coaches have similar characteristics and traits, I think so, and leadership qualities that are, similar to that of a general, similar to that of, someone who's successful as a CEO. I think Bill Belichick could be a very, very successful CEO somewhere. I think he could be a very successful politician somewhere if he wanted to, but he wanted to be a football coach. And something about that has always, captured my imagination, and in thinking, like, these guys are so smart, they're so creative, they're so, great, but why did they pick to be football coaches? And in coaching, you really do figure it out why they pick it, and it's amazing. It's a feeling that you get, you know what I mean? And you get that feeling when you play, but when you coach, you still get that same feeling as if you're going to go out there with the pads on. So
right. So I mean, whether it's in football or coaching or even for a teaching perspective, do you think that you're influenced greater with, intrinsic or extrinsic motivations in front of you?
I think it's intrinsic. I think I've always wanted to prove things to myself. I've always wanted to do things, so that I can get better. And, I'm the kind of kid that if I do bad on a test, and, if I do bad on a test, I look at what I did bad at, and I'll even go back and read that part of the chapter again or something, even though I know I'm not going to get a better grade on the test. The test is done and gone with. But I haven't always been the person that nails it first time around, but I've always been good at, coming back a second time around. So I don't know. What can you rephrase the question a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, so you said that you're really into personally expanding and growing as like an individual.
Yeah.
But would you still say that you're not really focused on what's at the end or the rewards more than, a personal reward, or saying that you got a step farther in achieving a goal that you might have or anything like that?
I think I'm a kind of person that I appreciate things afterwards, and I like to enjoy them when they're taking place. So I don't
Like live in the moment.
Yeah, and when I coaching a football game, there's so many, like I'll use coaching a football game for example. Winning is awesome, and afterwards it's always awesome to appreciate it. But during a game, there's so many ups and downs. You got to enjoy the process. Like I enjoy when I see a kid make a good tackle, not just a big hit, like a solid, fundamental tackle. And I appreciate little things like that. And even when I lose, I appreciate when I see an offensive line who had a great game blocking, and they did the thing that we didn't do well last week. I appreciate the process of it. I love the getting better. I love seeing the improvement. I love seeing over 2 or 3 years the development of players. And I don't think I'm going to be that coach or even that physical education teacher that counts his awards and his trophies and his accolades. If I'm a great physical education teacher, I don't think I'm going to have all these plaques hung up in my office every day so I can remind myself how good I am. I'm always going to be someone who feels a lot, and how I feel about things is important to myself. And when I see improvement from my players, when I see improvement in my students, hopefully, that's what I'll take pride in. And I always want to be better. And I know I'm throwing a lot of cliches out there. Everyone talks like this about themselves, but I really have come a long way from who I was and how I used to be sloppy with schoolwork, but I've put a lot into getting better at schoolwork, not so that I can run around saying my GPA is this, because I'm still working on getting my GPA up. I've put a lot into trying to learn what I'm being taught, not so that my grade is great when I get out, but so that I can know it when I'm a teacher and stuff like that. So I've always been someone who's been very constructive, and I don't always, tuck when I lose or when I fail. I try to respond and get better for myself, and I just think of it as an ongoing process most of the time. And I hope that I can, start off as a decent physical education teacher, but I understand going into it, and I'm going to fail a couple times, starting off.
So with all that being said, you would definitely say that results and feedback would be a big part of, seeing improvements, or to you personally, you like to see that small improvements or even the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
But would you say that at times you would care less about some results, or either it's a loss in the game, or if you see a few things that just didn't go well, as you might see?
Would I care less about what, like seeing like a kid miss a tackle, or?
Yeah, I mean, would that really get to you? I mean, I know you talked about a lot of how you appreciate like some of the really small things that
Mm-hmm.
some coaches might not really appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, would you say that you could still be happy even if you might have not have gotten there yet to a goal, you might have not seen an improvement?
Definitely, and I would say again, like I appreciate small results, and I look at a lot of different things. Like if I'm looking at a kid, especially because I coach for freshmen, And right now, my school has very low level of enrollment, so we have a lot of 8th graders playing for our freshman team. It's actually like an 8th grade team with a couple freshmen sprinkled in, and we play other freshman teams. So at the beginning of the year, it's like real tough. You got about a week of 3 days of no pads, and then you got 2 days of double sessions, and now they kind of even cut out a lot of the double session part of it for safety reasons. But you got about a week, 2 days of actual contact to get them ready for their first scrimmage, and it's really hard to get everything perfect. You're not gonna, and you're gonna go into this scrimmage half the time getting your butt whooped, but you have to look for certain things. But one thing I always coach up and I always look for is effort, and I look for commitment. And I'm a passionate person, so when I coach, that's something I tell them every single day. I'm a passionate person. We're going to do this today. I'm a passionate person. I like them to hear that every day, because I want them to know you don't just do the things you love with passion. You do everything you do with passion. So when I look at a missed tackle, or I look at a missed play or a mistake, did they go 100%? Did they just freeze up and hesitate and panic, or did they read the wrong play? Whether it's run or pass. Did they commit all the way to the run game and it was really a pass? Did they commit to something? Were they passionate about what they were doing in the moment? And that there's a couple different levels. If they make the tackle, I'm gonna love it. But if they weren't giving 100% effort on that tackle, I'm still gonna I'm not gonna be mad. But again, I'm looking at it a couple different ways. And when you do that, I feel like you have a lot of ways of looking at things positively, because when they mess up on breaking down in the tackle, and then they didn't wrap the kid up, and then they slide off the kid, but they were going 100%, you still have something where you can say to the kid, great effort, you didn't wrap up and break down, but we go back to work on that tomorrow. We're going to be good with that tomorrow. So there's ways to build kids up, hit them with positive reinforcement, let them know they did something wrong, and then, tell them that we're going to get better at it. And I really do appreciate, at this school that I've been coaching at, when I got there, they said, we haven't won a game in 5 years on this team. And I said, they kind of were a little jaded almost, or a little pessimistic about what our outcome was going to be. And what I ended up, what we accomplished my first year there on the freshman was we went 7-4, which, again, they hadn't won a game in 5 years. And we won 7 games with a bunch of 8th graders in a full spread offense. You know what I mean? We ran a college offense, something that you can't really do because you need to throw the ball so much. And, I think that positivity goes a long way, and you can't always judge it by wins and stuff. So you have to find ways to motivate the kids otherwise.
So while you're trying to find ways to motivate players or students, how do you keep yourself self-motivated?
I want to lead by example. So if I don't want to be, a fat physical education teacher, I don't want to be someone who's out of shape trying to tell kids how to live a healthy life, and then they see, Mr. Highland, Coach Highland being a slob. So, I try to take motivation from being around younger kids. I'm not wicked old yet, but, I don't want to get to the point where I'm 10 years removed from being young, and then I'm just, I let myself go too far. I think I have a lot of expectations for myself. I see, I'm not saying I want to be an NFL coach or anything like that, but, I don't think anybody gets that far, limiting themselves and not having goals. My goal is I want to perform at a high level wherever I go. And I always tell my kids, everything you do, treat it like you're passing in a math test, or treat it like a paper you're passing in. Your name is on it. In everything that you do, your name is on it. And you wouldn't want to pass me in a bad, paper if your name's on it, because I'm going to be upset with you, or I'm going to be disappointed if you didn't put the effort in, if you didn't put the time into research, and you didn't do your best job. So, if you do that in life in general, and again, it sounds cheesy and all that, but when you're coaching kids, you have to find ways to, keep gauging their motivation and keep gauging them. You almost, you got to live by what you tell them. So I try to actually live by what I tell them. I've tried to step out of my comfort zone to increase my comfort zone a lot, and it's definitely worked out the past couple of years. It's helped me get to where I am.
So overall, with coaching experiences and self motivation and all the goals you might have set for yourself, even through all maybe the setbacks you might have had with changing majors and figuring out what you might want to do in the future, could you say to yourself right now that you've set yourself up for some success in the future with what you want to do right now?
Definitely, and it's because I haven't been afraid to listen a lot, and you know, I swear I've coached with guys that were 20 years older than me, with 20 years more experience than me, that I knew more than, and even though I was in that position, you know, coming in to be the young guy, you have to put your time in. You can't just show up and start blowing people up, and you know, you're thinking that you know everything, and that they don't, and even people that you know more than, you can still learn from them, but it's definitely good to listen when you're young, because there are a lot of things, even when you think you know it all, when you know a lot about, say, the X's and O's of football, there's a lot of little things. You know, when you start coaching, you got to learn things like you can't be the kid's best friend. You got to set the example that you're the instructor. And at first, you know, I wasn't trying to be their best friend, but I cared a little bit too much, you know, if they liked me, rather than knowing that if they hang on through the whole process and they get through the season, they're gonna like me, you know, because I'm gonna do it the right way. But you know, I've had to learn things like that. But again, I've been under people that I thought, you know, I was a better coach than, that I knew more than, that I disagreed with on things, that I've had arguments with. But I've bit my lip. I've put in my time as a young coach, and I think that I'm better for it because, again, I was a head coach of a freshman program when I was 18, and you know, I had ups and downs with it. I'm not saying I was perfect. We had some success, but right now I'm not the head coach of the freshman team that I'm on. I'm under a guy that's much older than me, and I would say that there's days when I really get frustrated because I feel like I'm ready, like, to be a real good coach, and there's some days when, you know, he disagrees with what I say, and you know, we do it his way because he's the head guy. That's the chain of command. But you know, there's times when you realize that you are getting better from not having to be the guy right now. There's a lot of things that aren't, you know, the pressure's not on me. When you coach, there's a lot of things like paperwork and, you know, liabilities that you have to understand. So I've had a lot of time to kind of sit back and watch, sit back and learn from, you know, guys who have done it for a while. What do they do good? What do they do bad? What do I do good? How can I do what they do bad better? And you know, I've put a lot of work into it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
No problem, man.